Whilst you are, of course, the CEO of one of the most important energy companies and utility companies in Europe as well, you're also a civil servant. So in that nuanced position, let me ask you, are governments getting it right in their policy responses at the moment, which include, of course, windfall taxes on companies that could be using that money for actually the energy transition rather than subsidising prices? Good morning, sir.
Well, I think that's a fair statement from your side. I think the windfall taxes or whatever measures different governments are taking at this point have to go in trying to cope with this, not only on the short term, but also the medium long term. So I would argue that the best measure that have not been taken would have been to cap the volatility, the unwarranted volatility, I should say, of gas prices at European level. And that's something that most governments have been advocating for. Unfortunately, in Europe, we're not aligned on that. And then that explains why this has not been taking place yet. I still think that that would have been, and it still is, the radical cure at the core of the problem, which is this crazy volatility of gas prices. Barring that, the other measures are temporary and cannot really solve structural issues because they put money on short-term fixes, and that they will never be really resolving the problem at the core, which is the extraordinary and excessive dependence on fossil fuels that we have at European level.
Francesco, if I may say so and be presumptive, I guess you're one of the wise men of the Italian energy industry that Mr. Draghi must draw upon your experience and say, how on earth are we going to wean ourselves off Russian oil and gas? How on earth do we look towards the Mediterranean and the Middle East and do it quickly and in an efficient and not too costly way? Just tell us a little bit about the conversation between the state and companies such as yourself about how you wean yourself off Russia.
I think there are basically two parallel actions that you see Italy and other governments taking at this point. Number one, reduce dependence on gas in general and fossil fuels in particular, and say we need to stop using them every time we can. And generating electricity is one of them. So the acceleration towards renewables reduces uses of gas that really are not anymore intelligent. They are actually a waste. On the other side, there is a second measure that is super important. That means differentiate the source of that amount of gas that we cannot avoid to use. And that is what today you see many governments, and notably the Italian one is one of the most active, trying to source gas from different angles and from different parts of the world. So, number one, reduce dependence in absolute terms. Number two, reduce dependence from Russia for as much as we can. And these two measures go hand in hand. Some companies, and we're one of them, are acting on front number one, reduce dependence on gas. Other companies, and our cousins of Eni have been very active on that, are working on front number two, diversify the source of gases. You see many governments doing that, and of course, each one has different potential levers to use, but that's what happens in Italy. If you look at it from this point of view, understand many things about what's going on.
But Francesco, there is a finite amount of money that governments and companies are willing to finance for energy. And as such, would spending money on new infrastructure between North Africa, the Middle East, and of course the Eastern Mediterranean, which is such an important area now, spending money on that, is that going to distract from the money available for the longer term energy transition rather than just a short-term transition fuel?
Well, I think there is no comparison between the two. I mean, the amount of investment that needs to be put in order to enable infrastructure to source gas from different parts of the world is large, but I would say completely a different order of magnitude to the effort that was already underway and that's now accelerating in diversifying the energy infrastructure out of fossil fuels. So I argue that, yes, I'm not a big fan of gas infrastructure, but I think at this point in time, more regasifiers on the south part of Europe would be needed in order to feed gas from different sources. I think piping is already there. The lacking part is more regasification terminals. That's valid for Northern Europe. That's valid partly for Italy and some areas of Southern Europe. Let's not forget, many East European countries are 100% dependent on Russian gas. They don't have access to the sea, so you make a case that you could use existing pipelines to vehicle regasified gas from the Mediterranean up north, which is completely different from what's going on at this moment. But from the order of magnitude, this is a marginal investment when compared to the big effort that Europe has initiated and is carrying out to basically wean off electricity generation from gas.